Chromosomes. Little strands of nucleic acids and proteins are the fundamental genetic instructions that tell us who we are at birth. Most people are born with 46 chromosomes, but each year in the United States, about 6,000 people are born with an extra chromosome, making them a person with Down syndrome. If you've ever encountered someone with Down syndrome, you know that they are some of the kindest, most joyful people you will ever meet. They truly have something extra. My name is Lisa Nichols, and for 30 years I have been both the CEO of Technology Partners and the mother to Allie. Allie has something extra in every sense of the word. I have been blessed to be by her side as she impacts everyone she meets. Through these two important roles as CEO and mother to Allie, I have witnessed countless life lessons that have fundamentally changed the way I look at the world. While you may not have an extra chromosome, every leader has something extra that defines who you are. Join me as I explore the something extra in leaders from all walks of life and discover how that difference in each of them has made a difference in their companies, their families, their communities, and in themselves. If you like this episode today, please go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and leave us a 5-star rating. Before we get started, I'm excited to share that my book, Something Extra, is now available. It is rooted in the remarkable spirit of our daughter, Allie, and the heartfelt conversations we've had on the podcast. You'll find wisdom and practical tools to ignite the leader within you and uncover your own something extra. Visit somethingextrabook.com or find it at Amazon or in all major bookstores to order your copy today. I'm grateful to have Shep Hyken on the show today. Shep is the Chief Amazement Officer at Shepard Presentations. Well, Shep Hyken, I am so delighted today to have you on the Something Extra podcast. Thank you so much for making the time. I know how busy you are.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure and honor to be here, and great to see you again after all these years.
I think we figured out it's probably been about 20 years. So you and I first met, but we haven't aged, Shep. That's the remarkable thing.
Well, yeah, and guys like me without hair, you can't tell. Is it gray? Is it not gray? Who knows? And then one day in the future, I will start to look old.
Yeah. Well, you look great, but we met about 20 years ago, and you were speaking at a YPO event.
Yep.
And that's when you and I met, and I've just kind of followed you and thought, gosh, I want to have Shep on because you talk about stuff that's really near and dear to my heart in customer service. But I'm just grateful to have you on the show today. But, let's kind of go back a little bit. You're a St. Louis guy, grew up in St. Louis, right?
Yep.
But I want to go back and just talk about your first paid magic show.
Yeah, that's like my first paid gig in front of a live audience. I was 12 years old, and it was a birthday party magic show, and it's the toughest audience I've ever had. There were about 20 some odd screaming 6-year-old kids, and boy, that's a tough audience. There have been discerning audiences, but that was a tough audience.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, and I worked in comedy clubs as well in high school and college, and even dealing with hecklers, nothing compared to those little kids.
Those little kids. Well, what did that teach you about customer experience, the customer experience?
Well, it's funny. Most people wouldn't even think, what can a 12-year-old kid learn in a birthday party magic show business? And I came home, and by the way, of course, on the way out, my mom picks me up at school, drops me off. On the way out, I say thank you. They give me money. $16 is what I earned that day. That was a long, long time ago. And I said, thanks. And I thought that was it. My mom said, what are you going to do after dinner? And I thought, homework. It's school night. But she said, not till you write a thank you note. So that was a great lesson, show appreciation, a little more than just the genuine thank you on the way out the door. And then my dad takes it a step further and says, that's a great idea, but why don't you take it to the next level? He was always trying to one-up my mom, which is probably why they got divorced later that year. But that's another story. So he said, about a week after I send this thank you note, call up the parents who hired you and thank them again and ask them, how did you like the show? And you're going to get feedback and get specific. He said, ask what tricks they really like. And it's important to recognize over a period of time, you'll hear the same tricks. You'll notice there's certain tricks people don't talk about. He said, get rid of those tricks, replace them with tricks they do talk about, and then you'll get a better show. Now, little did I know, my parents were teaching me show appreciation, teaching me get feedback. and teaching me to operationalize the feedback to make a better product. In this case, it was a show. When I talk to my clients today, I ask them, do you do that? And they go, oh, yeah, that's really important. Wow. Lessons that I learned when I was 12. And this
Well,
may be why I just throughout my whole life have been so passionate about taking care of customers, guests, clients, whatever you want to call them.
oh, that's so good. Well, and I do believe in that too. And I will, even if we win a deal or if we lose a deal, Shep, I will ask for the feedback.
Yeah.
Why did you choose us? It's such a gift,
Or
right?
why didn't you choose us?
Or
Yeah, like
why
you said, you ask when you don't get the deal. Yep.
Either one, right? And what could we have done better? How could we have made the experience more amazing? Because I know that's like one of the things that you talk about is making the experience amazing. Um, it was funny to me too because I can't remember. I've got a few of your books here. Shep has written 8 books. He's co-authored 5 books. Go out and find his books. He's a New York Times best-selling author, Wall Street Journal best-selling author. Great books. I can't remember which one, but I remember one of your parents saying, "Well, what time are you going to get there?"
Ah,
And you're
yeah,
like,
that's
"Well,
in
I'm
that
just
book, Be Amazing or Go Home.
be amazing or go
Right.
home." And I thought this was so good. They're like, "Oh no, you don't show up right when you're supposed to be there. You get there early." Because the parents are already a little nervous about this. And if they're sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, our act, you know, the, the,
Is the
the
magician gonna be here on time?
the person, yeah, are they going to show up and take that angst off the table? And I thought that was so good. So they taught you to get there early, right?
Yeah,
So,
and my dad so I was booking like 8 to 10 magic shows a week, and it was so busy that my mom and dad had to hire me, and actually it was my mom because by that time, like I said, they were divorced, but my mom had to hire a high school kid to drive me around. We gave him $5 for every show I did, which was back then gas money was nothing compared to what it is
hmm
today, and they were
right.
happy to do it. And, I would just book them one right after the other, and I had my box of tricks, so if I opened up the box, the tricks were in exactly where they needed to be in the right order. And as I finished each trick, I put them right back, getting ready for the next show. So I would show up maybe, 3, 4, 5 minutes before it was time for me to perform. And my dad said, at what point do these parents start to worry about whether you're going to show up or not? And I go, oh, wow, maybe 15, 20 minutes before. He goes, exactly. So you need to be there at least 15 or 20 minutes before you're supposed to be there. And that was a great lesson. There's that old saying, it's called Lombardi time. Vince Lombardi talked to his football team and said that if you're on time, you're 15 minutes late.
hmm
Okay, so
Yeah.
and they actually have a clock in Green Bay at the stadium that's off by 15 minutes. So when when you're looking, why isn't the game started yet? Well, that clock's running 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
15 minutes ahead of schedule. Well, my dad said that all the time, Shep. But he was a Marine, and I always
Yeah,
thought that it came from his training in military. But he would say the same thing. If you're, 15 minutes early, you're already late, kind of thing. So, but I have to say, I mean, as a child, I was never late because I lived under his roof. Sometimes now I'm late, but I try not to
yeah,
be.
it drives my wife crazy. Why do we have to be there early? Because
Mhm.
we're not going to be late. That's
Yeah,
why.
we're
Now,
not gonna
it's
be late.
okay at a party to be fashionably late. Okay,
Yes,
but
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
But not when you're the main act.
yeah.
Not when you're the main act for sure. Well, let me ask you this, because and we're gonna talk a lot about this, but you are all about customer service today. When did you first realize that customer service and not magic was going to be your lifelong calling?
Well, great question. While in college, I did not know what I was gonna do for a living outside, and I graduated thinking, "What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do?" I went to work for my family business. That was like we graduated at the end of May in college, and so June 1, whatever the first Monday of that week was, I start working for the company. In September, they announced they are selling the company. And so I'm going, "What does that mean to me?" You better go find a job. So, but
Mhm.
one of the things I learned, so they own gas stations, and I worked in those gas stations from the time I was 14, helping people pump gas, collecting money on the drive. And one day it was super duper cold in the St. Louis day. I'll never forget this. It was like one of the coldest days on record. And we did have to go outside to collect money. This was before the electronic digital,
Pay at
you know,
the
gas
pump.
pumps. So
Yes.
there was a lady, and she had to be 80 years old, and she went to get out of her car. I said, "Ma'am, let me take care of that for you." And I pumped the gas. And I came in. My manager said, "What did you just do?" And I thought about it. What did I do? Did I do something wrong? He goes, "You pumped that lady's gas for her." And I go, "Well, yeah, she's like an older woman. I see her in here all the time, and I just thought it'd be a nice thing to do." He goes, "Now she's going to expect it the next time." And I remember my response. It was a little flippant. I said, "Yeah, maybe she will, but that means she's coming here and not to the gas station across the street or the one catty corner to us." And
Mm,
he got upset with me, walked out, slammed the door. And I thought, "Uh-oh, I'm done." By the way, I'm just a kid. I'm
right.
still in college, I guess, is because I was working with them that winter. And anyway, I thought that's the way I live. That's the way I am. We want to take care of the customer in the best way we know to get them to say, in the words of the famous philosopher Arnold Schwarzenegger, we want them to say, "I'll be back." I can't
Exactly.
do it in the Austrian accent, but, I wrote a book. That was actually one of the last books I wrote, titled "I'll Be Back: How to Get Customers to Come Back and Again," which, and when I started it, I wasn't even thinking about Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator, but about 3 sentences into the, outline, I go, "Oh my gosh, there's a guy that made this line famous." Has
Mhm,
nothing to do with customer service, but let's play off of it and riff off it a little bit. But here's the point. What are we doing? And if there's a lesson, there's lots of lessons we can share today. But one of the things I love to talk about is, what is the "I'll be back" philosophy? And there's lots of things that you can do in the process and the entire experience. But individually, one on one, we want everybody who's working for a brand that's customer focused to be thinking, as they're interacting with a customer, what am I doing right now at this moment? Not to create a lifetime of loyalty, but to get them to come back the next time. That's all, just the next time.
mhm.
And if you do that every time, it does turn into a lifetime.
Oh, I could not agree more, and you want repeat customers. It's so much
Yeah,
easier, isn't it? Really, truly, taking that extra time to have an amazing experience, an amazing moment with that customer, it's so much easier to do that than go out and get a brand new customer too,
right. Now,
right?
we need to define for your audience, we need to define the concept of what an amazing experience is. I don't know if that's
Yes.
on your list of
Let's
questions.
talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
It's not what everybody thinks. When I say, "Oh, when people, oh, they're amazing." What does amazing mean? It might mean they go over the top and they did something super special, but most of the time, it means they did exactly what was expected. Customers say things like, and by the way, I'm using that term customer, could be client, guest, member, patient, whatever you want to call the people who do
Sure,
business with you. But when that customer says, "I love doing business with them because," and then they use the word "always" in front of something we want them to say. They're always so helpful. They always get back to me quickly. They're always knowledgeable. They're always nice or friendly. And even when there's a problem, I know I can always count on them. When that word "always" is used in that context, you're operating at the zone of amazement. When something falls in your lap, when there's an emergency or there's something, for example, if you're a restaurant and a server overhears, "Oh, it's their 10-year anniversary. I'll surprise them with a cake, and a little piece of cake and a candle." You can't do that unless you know it. So don't count on it happening every day. But day in and day out, if you can meet the expectations that customers have consistently and predictably, they think that you're amazing. And by the way, there's two ways I look at amazement. If what you do is the tiniest bit above average, that's a way of creating amazement. As long as you don't drop to mediocrity and average, it's just a consistent, predictable, little bit above average experience. I had a chance to work a number of times with Horst Schulze, who's the first president and co-founder of the Ritz-Carlton organization. And
yeah,
we have the same philosophy. A little better than average is what made his organization iconic throughout the world, known for customer service and experience, or guest service, as they call it. And I said, "What does that look like, a little bit average? How much better do you have to be?" He thought about it and he goes, maybe 10% better. I go, "What does that look like in real life?" I mean, it sounds like, okay, there's a concept, but how does that operationalize? He goes, "We use the guest's name. We use it as often as possible in the right
right.
way. They show up at the door. We look at their luggage tag, whoever's working the door Says, "Are you Mr. Hyken?" "Yes, I am." "Well, welcome to the Ritz. Have you been here before?" "Yes." "Come on in. Let me take you to the check-in area." "This is Mr. Hyken. He's here to check in. He's been here before." So the next person says, "Well, welcome back." And they pull up my record without having to ask my name, which is in a sense using my name. And then later on, I walk through the lobby and one of these nice people say, "Hey, Mr. Hyken, how's your room? Everything going well?" Whatever. They go, "Wow, they're using my name." When I ask, "Where's the bathroom?" They don't say, "Down there to the left, make another right. You'll see a sign." They actually take me there. They don't walk into the bathroom with me. They get that far.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they say, "You're on your own." But
Right.
the point is, most people would just say, "Go down there and to the left." I worked with Ace Hardware quite a bit over the years. I actually wrote a book where I use them as a case study throughout the book. And they talk about helpful versus friendly service. Anybody can deliver friendly service. They want to be the helpful hardware place. And I said, "Tell me what that means." It means when you come in, we say, "What can we help you find today?" And when you tell us, we take you there. We don't tell you what aisle to go to. On the way, we might say, "What are you using this for?" And once
Yeah.
we learn, we can make suggestions on how to better use the product and create an experience that's helpful, not just friendly. And I thought, wow, that is outstanding. By the way, I decided to use them as the case study because when I interviewed one of the executives prior to a speech, and he found out that I was getting ready to write this book. He says, "Write about us." I go, "Do you think you're one of the top iconic brands in customer service?" He says, "Yes." I go, "Prove it." If I walk down the street and I asked 10 people, would they say Ace Hardware? Yes, they would. Okay. And he showed me an article in Business Week, and it listed the top 25 brands worldwide known for great service. Number 10 was the Ritz, or no, I'm sorry, number 10 was Ace Hardware. Number 11 was the Ritz-Carlton. They beat the Ritz.
Which is just crazy,
I
isn't it?
know. I love it. I
Gold
love it.
standard. Oh, I love so much about that story. And as far as I had horse on my horse and Cherry are friends of ours,
Mm.
and had him on the podcast, and it was just honestly one of my most favorite episodes ever. He's just such a hoot, and I think he's what 86
At
now or
least,
something
and
like that.
still strong, man. He's still,
Still strong.
yeah,
Oh, he's
consulting, he
amazing.
owns his own brand. I mean, and by the
Uh,
way, he left the Ritz to start, I believe it's called Capella. And I said, "Tell me about that." He goes, "Well, you take the nicest room at the Ritz, that's our worst room."
right.
Yeah.
I think there's only 12 of them in the world, so that kind of gives you a little bit of an indication. But he and Sherry are just incredible. But I love the story that you told about the name, because really, and I know you say this in your one of your books that I've read. I've got Be Amazing or Go Home, and I've got The Cult of the Customer. But again, listeners, go out and get Shep's books.
Oh,
They're
thank you.
really incredible. Um, but I remember you saying in one of those, really the most precious word in the English language
It's
is
the
someone's
sweetest,
name.
it's a Dale Carnegie quote. Yep, it's using the customer's name or using
Use
anybody's name. And
right,
I
right.
believe you're referring, I call it the Cheers effect, where,
What?
Cheers was the TV show, the sitcom, and the theme song was, "It's a place where everybody knows your
What's
name."
your name?
And the
Right.
power of that personalization, not abused and overused, but used the right way. Have you ever talked to that customer support person that uses your name again and again? "Well, Shep, I'm very sorry." "Well, like I said, Shep, I said it." It's like,
Right.
okay, you can stop
A
using my
little
name.
overkill.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
stop apologizing for every single thing. I don't care about the apology anymore. You did it. Let's move on with what you're going to do about it.
Yes, yes, yeah. So there is a balance there. There is
Definitely.
definitely a balance there in using it. Well, I know, in Shep, this is cool because you have a communications degree from UMSL here in St. Louis.
UMSL, University of Missouri St. Louis, for those around the world who have no idea what UMSL means.
Yes, very, very good education system. I will say, but so now you're speaking and writing and doing all kinds of things. But I love, that you went to a seminar. I think that Zig Ziglar was speaking at.
That's where the career started.
That's where it
Yeah.
started.
So I knew, and we're all the way back to one of the first questions you asked, like, how did I get so interested in customer
Yes,
service? And I didn't have that job. Remember, my family business said,
yes,
"September, you're out." Now I stayed with them a few more months, and they did give me the company car that I was driving, but it did have 170 some odd thousand miles on it. And when I traded it in, I got $400 for the car.
Oh, wow.
And I think the wheels were worth that, but the rest of the car was
Mhm.
junk. So this is what happened. I thought, what am I going to do? I don't want to be a magician. I did that. I loved the business when I worked for the family business and thought one day I might actually run it. I was learning so much. I'm intrigued by business. I saw Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins. Zig Ziglar talked about goal setting. Tom talked about sales. And I bought a book from Tom, and I bought the audio cassette tapes, which a lot of the younger members go, what's that? Okay. Or the younger
Right.
listeners, they don't know. Audio cassettes, it's kind of like a CD, but with tape.
Yes.
And now it's all streaming. But anyway, I listened to those like right away, and I read the book. And this is like not even a few months after finding out I wasn't going to be working anymore. And I thought, wow, I could do that. I could do a speech. And I love, the idea of the entertainment background supporting me, being comfortable to do that. Now, what am I going to talk about? I go to the bookstore, which at the time, the business book section might have had 30 books on the whole shelf. And I bought 3 books. One by Tom Hopkins, and it was co-authored by him and another gentleman, and it was called In Search of Excellence. And it was a
I
bestseller
read
in
that
the
book,
1980s. Yeah,
Shep, but back in the day. I
right.
love that book.
And 2 other books by Ron Zemke and Carl Albrecht. All of them had to do with creating that experience, the 3 books. And I said, this is what I'm going to talk about. I wrote a speech. I called it Moments of Magic, how you avoid moments of misery, create moments of magic. And eventually I blended into the idea of what does it take to create that amazing experience? Because some people think of magic as amazing, but really when I define the moment of magic, it's anything that's better than average. The tiniest
Mhm.
bit, maybe 10%, or maybe it's over the top. It doesn't matter. You avoid moments of misery, and those are complaints, problems, just bad experiences. And you definitely avoid mediocrity, average, because when people are having an average experience, they don't complain. They just disappear one day because somebody gave them a better one. And
Right.
I joke about the word fine. Like, how was everything? It was fine. And what does fine really mean? It doesn't
Right.
mean it's fine. It
Yeah,
means it's okay, average.
it was average.
I made an acronym, FINE, fake smile, insincere feedback, because that's what that smile is. Never coming back, and emotionless. So we stay away from the word fine. We want now, if they use an adjective in front of it, like your hair looks mighty fine today, then that's okay. But when
Right.
so
Yeah,
like, how's my hair look? It's fine. Uh-oh.
fine. Yes,
And
there's
you're
something
talking to your husband and he notices something's amiss and he says, is everything okay? And you say, fine. You better follow up with why fine is the answer.
yeah. I'm just thinking here, kind of sidebar, because you and I talked a lot about sales
Yes.
before we even jumped on the podcast today. And I love that, Tom Hopkins was all about
Yep.
sales, right? And the customer experience. And so getting those two, getting to hear from those two
In one
people
night.
in one
Yeah.
night. What a treasure that was. Yeah, I remember reading both of Zig's, and then this is kind of a sidebar too, but I remember when we started having kids, I devoured Zig Ziglar's book on raising
Oh,
positive
yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
I would use all of his little tactics to try to make sure I was raising positive kids, but
Well,
that's
here's
so
something interesting. Um, from Zig, now I realize I'm 22 at the time. I graduated college, and the year I graduated, I turned 22. So this is less than a year later. I'm seeing these guys. I'm 22. I wrote a 10-year business plan, starting when I turned 23 is when I got my first booking to do a speech. And I decided I'm going to be a speaker and talk about customer service and experience. Back then, it was just customer service. It morphed into experience. And I wrote a 10-year plan because that's what Zig told me to do. Very financially driven, X number of dollars I want to make. I'm going to do this many speeches. And then I took the Tom Hopkins book to determine how I was going to get these potential clients and eventually turn them into clients.
yes,
And between those 2 books, I don't know if I needed anything else to get. I mean, for the next, and then I eventually joined the association, National Speakers Association, which is the
yes,
industry that I was in. And that took me to a whole nother level. I thought I was doing well till I went there and then, wow, so much. And then, of course, in the early 90s, I joined an organization, you're familiar with it, called EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, which is kind of the cousin of YPO, the Young Presidents Organization.
Mhm.
And I was so fortunate to be able to be in that environment to start learning about all kinds of different businesses. So it's just been a great run, and I hope it continues. It would be really cool. I'm about year 42 in my business right now, maybe 43. And wouldn't it be cool if on my 50th year, somebody still wants to hire me to do a speech?
Oh,
Yeah.
I am sure they will.
I
I am
hope. I
sure they
hope.
will, Shep. And that just, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, let's talk about that. I want to dig more into your books. I want to dig more into, you've been inducted now into the National Speaker Hall of Fame. So I'm sure people are still going to want to hire you, Shep, but
Let's hope.
we do need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back on the Something Extra podcast with Shep Hyken.
In business, the tendency is to seek out partners who are bigger, faster, stronger. When it comes to IT, you should be looking for smarter, faster, better. That's just what you'll find with the talented technologists at Technology Partners. Our experts develop custom solutions to tackle your most complex challenges, all to simplify your processes in the smartest, most efficient way possible. The time to be swift and nimble starts now. Go to technologypartners.net/solutions and see what's possible.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Something Extra podcast with Shep Hyken. We've been having so much fun. But Shep, I had mentioned that you've written 8 books, you've co-authored 5. I want to just kind of talk about a few of these, and maybe if you can just give us a little nugget from
Sure.
each one of these, okay? So, you talked about the "I'll be back." I love that. I love that you use Arnold in the Terminator for that. But you talk about repeat customers. So what do you think is the difference between repeat business and true loyalty?
Right. Well, repeat business, there's many reasons a customer comes back to you. What you want to find out is why. And the reason behind that is maybe they come back simply because you're the lowest price. And if that is what they're interested in, the next company that has a lower price, you lose, they win. Maybe they come back to you because you're closer than a competitor in a retail environment, and they just want convenience in that fact. And if somebody moves in closer, you lose. So if you find out the reason the customer loves you is because of something you're doing right, that you can maintain that relationship, you get loyalty. So we want to make price less relevant. It's always going to be relevant at some level. And we want to make sure that we offer, we want to be competitive in every possible area. And that's what the focus on I'll Be Back. And there's a great conversation that's 6 questions like, why do business with us? Why are you doing business with a competitor? If what we learned from a competitor, can we do it in our business? Questions like that set you up for the I'll be back conversation. So it's important to understand why customers love you or why they don't.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good. What about the convenience revolution?
This is powerful. I still believe, even though COVID forced companies to become more convenient, not enough companies think about the friction points they cause for customers. Convenience is a competitive differentiator. It's so important. Customers, 59%, basically 6 in 10, customers pay more for customer service, but they'll pay even more if the experience is convenient. Convenient trumps nice and friendly, as well as general overall great service experiences. And by the way, convenience is a great service experience. So there's 6 convenience principles. You can either go on my website and look at my articles and learn about them, or go buy the book through Amazon, The
Mm,
Convenience Revolution.
yeah, and I was thinking,
Shameless plug.
yeah, shameless plug. It's good. It's good. And I was thinking about convenience and somebody that does it real well, and you just mentioned them as Amazon.
Yeah, they're the most convenient
So,
company on the planet.
most convenient company, yes. And another one would be Instacart.
Oh,
Love
yeah.
Instacart. That was developed by a woman. That was her brainchild, and that totally makes sense to me. But yeah, convenience, and especially in today's world when we're moving so fast, right? What about this one? Amazing or go home.
Be
There's 7
amazing or go
habits
home. Yep.
Yeah, be amazing or go home. There's 7 different habits.
Yeah, and it's interesting, 7, that's a magic number, but there's actually, I think 49, because within each of the 7, there's 7 ways to deliver on each one of these that I came up with, and my focus is always on creating a better experience, but these ideas are good for anybody in any business, in any position, that will help them create a better relationship with the people they do business with or work with.
That's good. That's good. Amaze every customer every time.
Why not? Right? This is the book I mentioned earlier. I used Ace Hardware as a
Yes,
case
the case
study throughout the
study.
book. I interviewed almost, I'm going to say about 80, 90 people, all their leadership team, plus a number of the owners of Ace Hardware stores, to get the information to find out, how do you compete, not just with somebody that's a direct competitor, but how does David go up against Goliath when a little tiny hardware store gets all of a sudden Home Depot or Lowe's or one of the big, huge box stores moves in next door. And there's some great examples of how to be uber competitive using the experience as your competitive differentiator.
Good, good. And another one that I have right here is cult of the customer.
Yeah. Cult is not a dirty word. A cult is, we don't want to be part of a cult. Yes, you do, when it's this cult. And it's a number of different ideas on how you can create a customer-focused culture and how you develop that internal mantra that drives the experience. And within that, and I know in your great book that you have, Something Extra, I believe it's called. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
You have at the end of every chapter examples, exercises, conversation starters. I do that in almost all my books. But what I put in the back of this book are the same training exercises that our trainers, when they hire us to go out, I have a team of trainers that go out and deliver my content in a training format, not necessarily a keynote speech. And it's the same exact exercises that we use. We put them in the back of the book for people to use.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, let's kind of move into, I mentioned it right before our break that you were inducted into the National Speaker Hall of Fame. Shep is an amazing keynote speaker. So if you're looking for somebody,
Well,
make
thank
sure
you.
you reach out to him. He's got lots of different things he can talk about. But I want to talk about this. I don't know what year this was, but I just wanted you to kind of just like touch on this. Because this definitely taught you a few things about leadership under fire. And that
Oh,
is
yeah.
when,
I don't
when you
know. Where did you get that? Because that's not, I don't think, in any of my books. Maybe it is.
I don't know, just found it somewhere. So the president of the National Speakers Association, you faced a major crisis.
Yeah. So what happened is I was president in 2014-15, and great honor, traveled the world, and 4,000 speakers think they're my best friend, and they are. Okay, but we changed the name of the organization, and we had no idea that people were so invested in the name of our organization. It was a nightmare. Within the period of about 24 to 30 hours of announcing this, I received over 700 emails. And other than the ones that cussed me out, and they did, nasty words, I answered every single one, which was close to 700. And I did it over a holiday weekend. It was that July 4th weekend. I said, everybody's going to get a response. And we talked to the executive who runs our board, or who runs the organization, the board. I was chairman or president of the board. And we said, what are we going to do? We hired a crisis management company. And they said, you're going to get through this. We're going to show you how. I go, I'm going to tell you how we get through it. We need to listen to our members, and we need to start over. We have to roll back the rollout of the new name and make sure the members buy in. What I learned is this. We're sitting up here in this office with, a dozen other board members, and we think we know what thousands of people want.
Yes.
We really thought we knew. We even asked past presidents. We brought in a few branding experts. We were dead wrong. And it was really an interesting process how he brought everybody around. And even the biggest naysayer finally agreed we need to change the name. Unfortunately, we couldn't come up with the right name. So what we did is we kept our name, and we made sure that each year our annual conference was consistently named. And we came up with a great name for that. So, which is influence, because that's what we do. The spoken word, the written word, the platforms we use, such as speaking from a stage, training, podcasts, that type of thing. This is all about creating influence in the right way.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so because you just said that, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to ask you something totally different.
Okay.
Okay, influence. How do you define influence?
Wow. Influence, well, I'm a huge fan of Robert Cialdini, who wrote the book Influence, which we were that year was the first year our conference was named Influence, and we decided as a board that it would be moving on. And by the way, members didn't care what we called the conference, but it
Mhm.
made total sense. And we gave everybody one of Dr. Cialdini's
Books.
books. Yes, which is, by the way, highly recommend the book. One of my favorites. So
Okay.
I believe influence is any time, for the right reason, you get somebody to do things for the right reason. Influence could be, I want you to buy from me. How do I influence you to do that for the right reasons if it's the right product? If you're a leader, influence is how you influence and motivate your people to do the right thing for their customers. And I think it's so important that everybody be thinking about not just the job they have, especially leaders, your listeners. They need to think about, where can I influence people for the right reasons at the right time? And so I think it's a powerful, powerful word. And
It is. I don't know if you know, you may, or because he's on the speaker circuit too. Tommy Spalding is a good friend of mine.
Yep.
He wrote The Gift of Influence,
Yep.
and another terrific book. But I'll get the one that you just recommended too. But it was just really, yeah. But you can influence people for good or for bad, right? We want to be influencing
For the
in
right reasons. I
So-
made sure that was very clear.
Very,
Yeah.
very important. Very important. Well, let me just do a few lightning round questions here, just some fun stuff, and then we'll talk about something extra. But I know, Shep, that you read something like 30 to 40 books a year.
I do.
And
A lot of airplane time.
A lot of airplane time. You're a voracious reader. I am too. You've got books behind me, but my whole wall here is books. My dream would be to have a library like in Beauty and the Beast.
You need a big house.
Yes, that would be my dream, though, to have that kind of library. But you say that that's truly been one of your secrets to your success is just how much you've read. One of your secrets to success. But you've already given us one. But can you give our listeners one or two more that you would highly recommend?
Sure. My favorite book of all time, I've told you Dr. Cialdini's book Influence is a great book, but my personal favorite book of all time is The Experience Economy by Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore. And the gist of it is, Starbucks took a coffee bean and figured out how to charge $5 for what everybody else was charging $1 for. And I go, wow, this book speaks to me, and it's exactly everything that I believe in. I also mentioned Tom Hopkins' book for sales, and even though it's outdated, there are very many what I would call basic principles that are not only were timely for me, but also became timeless, and I think they are. So,
Oh, those are good. And since we were talking about Horace, his book Excellence Wins.
Yes, love the book. Love the book. And the hospitality mentality is what every business needs.
Could not agree more. Well, what about this morning routine? There's so many studies out there. Really successful people, are not just haphazard. So usually have a routine. What is one habit, Shep, that you do in the morning that you won't compromise on?
I wake up.
Okay.
Wake up, get out of bed, run the comb across my head, go down the stairs, get a cup. No, that's a Beatles song. Anyway, and I don't have the hair to run across the comb. But no, my habit 4 days a week, if I'm in town. So I believe when you get up, you have to really get up. You got to get your body going. You got to do something. And there's no doubt that a little bit of physical activity actually helps reduce your age and the way you think. It makes you sharper. So if I'm in town, this is my morning. I did it this morning. I get up about 5:15. I clean up. I stretch a little bit. I go to the office for about a half an hour, and then I go to the ice rink and I play hockey with my buddies, which is not only a great workout, but what a fun way to start the day. And I am back in my office usually around, somewhere around 8:45 or so. But that's how my favorite mornings start. I do that when I'm in town 4 days a week.
That is awesome. I love that. I thought you were going to say you go to the gym or something, but going to play hockey with your
Yep.
buddies. So you're getting that social interaction, the relational piece of
Yeah,
that.
it's so great. And by the way, I still will go to the gym, and I have a Peloton in our home, so I do
Sure.
that. But I forgot to go to the gym the other day, which now that's 3 years I've been forgetting to go to the gym every day. No, I'm just kidding. But no,
That's
it's important to do. I think if you can do 4 or 5 days of great physical activity, that's great. I like to do it early in the morning because that gets me going. For some people, it's hard to do that. So their
sure.
routine may be getting that cup of coffee, watching the news, and starting the day out that way. I don't know
Yeah.
how exciting and motivating watching the news can be.
Right,
Uh,
right. Exactly, especially now. Yeah, we won't go there. We won't go there. All right. Well, do you have one personal habit where people walk away from you, Shep? I could surmise a few things. I could put a few things in your brain, but I want to hear from you. One habit that people walk away going, I'm so glad I met Shep. That was an
wow.
amazing experience.
I think uh, nobody's asked me this quite this way. I'm thinking a number of ideas, but I think I do what I say I'm going to do. You can
Hmm.
count on me. If I
Yeah.
don't return a phone call, call 911. It means something really wrong.
It means
Yeah.
something. Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. And that's amazing. Well, Shep, this is called something extra.
Mhm.
What do you believe is the something extra that every leader needs?
Great. Well, I'm going to tie it to the customer experience thing. I believe that when it comes to creating a great experience in a company, it starts with the leader at the very top. I interviewed in one time. I interviewed 300 some odd leaders of all size companies. You were in YPO, so number of YPO leaders, all the way up to CEOs of major Fortune 100 organizations. And I asked them, what's the one thing, the most important thing that you do in your job as a leader? And one of them was so powerful because it was something I believed in when it comes to creating the culture of a customer first or customer obsessed or customer focused mindset. This is what this gentleman said. Big company, he said, my job, of course, there's deals to be made and that kind of thing, is to defend the culture of the company. What we
Mm,
created and what is working and what our customers want and expect and love about us. If I see a person, a region, a division, a group that's out of alignment, I have to defend our culture. That's part of my job, and it's probably the most important job. I went, wow,
oh,
there you go.
that's good. That is really good. That's gold right there. Well, Shep, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for
Oh,
making
thank
the time.
you.
It's
What a
been a
pleasure.
delight.
What a
It has
pleasure.
been a delight to be with you. And I just really encourage our listeners, go out, follow Shep, go, he writes for Forbes. He, has articles out there, but his books are great. And again, if you need a keynote speaker, he'd be a great one to bring on board for that. So thanks so much for being with me today.
Well, thank you. Can't wait to do it again. I'm going to have you on my show next.
I know. I'm excited about that too. All right. Take care now.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Something Extra with Lisa Nichols is a Technology Partners production. Copyright Technology Partners, Inc. 2019. For show notes or to reach Lisa, visit tpi.co/podcast. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you listen.